Okay, class. As we alluded to, we're looking at inhalation and exhalation. The last video I did was to set the anatomy, the skeletal muscles up that would occur and how they are designed. All right, we go into another segment before we put it all together. I want you to learn these terms here on different things. All right, normal breath rate is about 12 to 20 breaths per minute. That's the normal. All right. If you breathe too fast, it's called tachypnea. Okay. Now this is kind of a resting breath rate. If you have a slow breath rate, bradypnea. See, like tachy for fast, like tachycardia, bradycardia. If you stop breathing completely, it's called apnea. And these are some important terms to learn. Okay. Now I'm going to volume of breathing. Volume of breathing. And we're going to be talking about this. Just kind of set it up. Right here is looking at your volume, your lung volume of breathing right there. And you can look at it in the book. Blow it up a little bit more. Okay. See if I can expand a little bit here. All right. To get this, we use this device here called a spirometer. A spirometer. Okay. Now, I have a PowerPoint that's called spirometry. So I actually have a spirometry PowerPoint. And it describes everything. And we may talk on that, the spirometry aspect. How we would look at different things like asthma and various things like that. I may do that at the end in my path, so I'll consider that. But anyway, this particular device you would blow into. When you blow into this particular device, then these are the volumes that we can get. So let's describe our volumes, and then I can do this. Then we can put it all together. All right. This would be you simply just blowing in and out. Just blowing, ignore that one. And that's what we call your tidal volume. Your tidal volume is what you're doing when you do quiet breathing. Eupnea. Eupnic breathing is quiet breathing. That's what you probably are doing now. And if you were blowing into this machine, you'd be breathing in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Now, in this standard human, but it differs in people now. This is just an average, this is a textbook average. In this standard human, let me see if I can expand this a little bit. See if I can go down a little bit here. Okay, in this standard human, that's about 500 cc's of air. 500 milliliters. Okay. There, that's what you're usually doing. Now, so I'm just breathing along. Now, let's say, for example, that I want to bring in all the air I can bring in over and above my tidal volume. Just like that. That would be my inspiratory reserve volume. That's the amount of air I could bring in over and above my usual. Okay? Now, let's say, and we're putting that in this person's standard 3,100 cc's. That's not in stone. It depends on the person now. This is just something out of the textbook for this average. All right, let's say I'm breathing along, and then I decide to push all the air I can out as much as I can. Okay? That's my expiratory reserve volume. So I would just, after I did tidal, come down. That's my expiratory. It's around 1,200. Now, there's some air I don't breathe out. Now, let me explain this here. The residual volume. Okay. When it comes to, we'll come down here to this. When you have a certain amount of lung compliance. It's due to the surface tension of water we talked about and the elastic fibers. These two things tend to want to pull in on your lungs. These things here want to pull in on your lungs. make them collapse. That compliance. Those elastic fibers and the surface tension of water. Now, recall that the surface tension of water, we had a combatant on that, and that combatant on that was surfactant. That combatant on that was surfactant. But that's still not enough to keep your air, these lungs from not just collapsing. Okay. So what happens is basically this. At the end of exhalation, you keep a peak pressure, let's say. I'll use that term. This is more of a respiratory term. You keep a peak pressure, which I'm going to call a positive end expiratory pressure. Now what that is then, let's say we're going to call it that. That's some air left in your lungs after you breathe out. That's some air left in your lungs. You don't breathe that out. You can't breathe that out. What's the purpose of that? To keep some compression in the lung, some air compression in the lung, so that the alveoli don't get too small and collapse. So that the alveoli don't get too small and collapse. Remember, we have surfactant, but that's not enough. So we need to keep some extra air in there so it doesn't get too small and collapse on you. I'm going to call that, from respiratory purposes, really this is using a positive end expiratory pressure. Now, what's giving that in your physiologic? See, this is a term all for using a respirator. What's doing it in a physiologic is this residual volume right there. And so you really don't breathe that out. Now, here would be the situation. This is football season. So all of a sudden, a running back is running down the field. He's breathing hard. What kind of breathing is he doing? More of a dyspneic breathing. Or we could say a hyperpnea. But he's breathing hard and deep. Hard and deep. Hard and deep. Dyspnea is stressful breathing. Hyperpnea is deep breathing, when you're bringing all this air in and out. This and this. Okay, this and this. Now, he's running down the field breathing hard. Let's say he just breathed everything out down to here, getting ready to take the next breath. But unfortunately, another player comes into his chest helmet first. What's that going to do? Knock some of this out. Now, he's going to generally fall to the ground and do like this, which you would call in everyday language not being able to catch your breath. But basically what's happened is he has knocked some of this residual volume out. And some of those alveoli, and I apologize I didn't mention, you have about 300 million alveoli. You have about 300 million alveoli. I should have brought that up. About 300 million alveoli. And I'm not sure where I have that, but about 300 million different alveoli. And what happens is about 150 million in each lung. So let's just say you have 300 million, about 150 million in each lung, we'll say. That's somewhere in my PowerPoint here. There we are, approximately 300 million. Accounts most of the lung volume. Okay, so what happened when he got hit in the chest? Some of those 300 million collapsed that are being held by kept open by the residual volume. Those will never open back up. Those will never open back up. Now, this brings up something interesting. Do you remember when we did cardiovascular? And we said if an area was being underperfused, it would cause vasodilation in that area. If an area was undergoing ischemia, it would cause vasodilation. This is what we talked about, local blood flow, local control. Go back and check it. This is where we tie in. But I said that the lungs were diametrically opposite. The lungs were diametrically opposite. That if an area was becoming underperfused, under-aerated, you would not open that up, you would close it and dilate other areas. So what's my point? When 50 of these alveoli, let's say, get knocked out because you got the wind knocked out of you, they're never going to open again. The blood supply to those will not go anymore. It will be redirected to good alveoli. Redirected to good alveoli. All right? But anyway, let's go further. Okay, so right here, this is deep breathing. Now, right here, this is going to be your functional residual capacity. The functional residual capacity is everything you left. See, you left this in there for insurance. You never wanted to get to this. Normally, you got this and this contributing to the peak pressure, because you don't even breathe that out normally unless you're doing deep breathing. So normally you would have this and this to give the peak pressure, which would then keep those lungs aerated, perhaps all 300 million. And that's your functional residual capacity right there. Now, another volume you have is going to be what we call your vital capacity. Now, let me tell you how you do a vital capacity exercise. You just kind of take a few deep breaths in and out. Just like that. Then what you do is you take the deepest breath in you can. You just brought in your tidal volume and all of your inspiratory reserve volume. All of that. Now you breathe everything you can out. Everything. Which would be this plus that. This plus this plus that. Inspiratory reserve, tidal, and expiratory. And that's all you could do because you keep this in. That's what we call your vital capacity, maximum air that can be expired. Okay? So what I've described to you are your different volumes, So when we go back to this right here, I think it was like, we go back to this, here would be those numbers there. Here's those numbers there. And we go back here, and here's this. So deep breathing is called hyperpnea. Shallow breathing, hypopnea. Quiet breathing, which you probably are doing now, is eupnea. And stressful breathing is dyspnea. So what we've done, we've put these volumes together. Okay? Now, the next one, hopefully we can get in and explain how these muscles, but I needed to do the volumes and do the terms. So what have we done to set the stage for inhalation and exhalation? We've looked at the muscles, we've described terms, and we've described volumes. We've described spirometry, you can breathe in and out. So now I think I'm ready on the next video to actually get to the mechanism of breathing in and out. I think we have everything we need now. All right.